You've been searching outside for strength, but the truth is, God's power has already been planted deep within you. Every challenge you face is not to break you, but to awaken the divine presence waiting to rise. When you understand this, you'll stop doubting and start walking in unshakable confidence. In this video, you will learn why that power is already yours and how to awaken it, so you live guided, fearless, and fully aligned with God's presence. You carry within yourself, at this very moment, a power so vast and infinite that the entire universe bends to its will. Yet most people walk through their days completely unaware of this divine presence that pulses through every cell of their being, every thought that crosses their mind, and every breath that sustains their life. This power is not something you need to acquire, earn, or develop through years of spiritual practice, for it has been yours since before you drew your first breath, woven into the very fabric of your existence by the infinite intelligence that created all things. The signs of this power are everywhere around you and within you, manifesting in ways both subtle and profound. Yet the eyes that have been trained to see only limitation and lack often miss these divine indicators that point to your true nature as a being of infinite potential and creative power. When you begin to recognize these signs, when you start to perceive the evidence of God's power operating through you and as you, your entire experience of life transforms from one of struggle and limitation to one of flow, abundance, and miraculous manifestation. A woman once said to Dr. Joseph Murphy that she had lived 40 years believing she was powerless, only to discover in a single moment of illumination that she had been carrying the power of the infinite within her all along, like someone searching everywhere for their glasses while wearing them on their own head. This moment of recognition, this sudden awakening to the truth of your divine nature, is available to you right now, in this very moment, for the power has never left you and never can leave you, being the very essence of what you are beneath all the layers of conditioning and false belief that obscure your vision. The tragedy of human existence is not that we lack power, but that we have forgotten we possess it, that we have allowed the voices of limitation, fear, and doubt to convince us that we are small, separate, and powerless in a vast and indifferent universe. Nothing could be further from the truth, for the universe is not indifferent but intimately responsive to your consciousness, and you are not small but rather an individualized expression of the one infinite power that creates and sustains all things. Every spiritual teacher throughout history, every mystic and sage, every enlightened being who has ever walked this earth has pointed to this same fundamental truth. The kingdom of heaven is within you. The power of God resides in your own consciousness, and you need not seek outside yourself for what has been yours from the beginning. The question is not whether you possess this power, for that is beyond question, a fundamental fact of your existence as undeniable as your own heartbeat. The question is whether you will recognize it, acknowledge it, and begin to consciously cooperate with it, allowing it to express itself through you in ways that transform not only your own life, but the lives of everyone you touch. The signs of this power are calling to you now, inviting you to wake up from the dream of separation and limitation, to remember who and what you truly are, to step into your birthright as a conscious co-creator with the infinite intelligence that breathes life into all forms and whose essence is love, wisdom, and unlimited creative power. Consider for a moment the very fact that you are alive, that consciousness flows through you, allowing you to perceive, think, feel, and create in ways that no machine, no matter how sophisticated, can replicate. This consciousness that you take for granted is itself the first and most fundamental sign that God's power resides within you, for consciousness is the very essence of the divine, the light through which all creation comes into being. Every thought you think ripples out into the universe, setting into motion chains of cause and effect that shape your reality in ways you may never fully comprehend. Yet this creative power operates whether you are aware of it or not, whether you believe in it or not, for it is not dependent upon your acknowledgement, but is rather the fundamental truth of your being. The ability to imagine something that does not yet exist in your physical reality, to hold in your mind's eye a vision of what could be, and then to watch as that vision gradually takes form in the world around you. This is not merely human creativity, but divine creation, expressing itself through the vehicle of your consciousness, a successful businessman told Dr. Joseph Murphy that his entire fortune began with a single mental image held faithfully in his mind during his poorest days, an image so vivid and real to him that he could feel the reality of it long before it manifested in his bank account. This is the power of consciousness working as an architect of reality, building in the invisible realm before bringing forth visible forms, following the eternal principle that everything exists first in mind before it can exist in matter. Your awareness itself is a miracle beyond comprehension, a mystery that science cannot explain and philosophy cannot fully grasp. For how does mere matter become aware of itself? How does the universe open its eyes and begin to perceive its own existence through countless individual points of consciousness? The answer is that consciousness is not produced by matter, but rather, matter is produced by consciousness. That mind is not an accident of physical evolution, but the fundamental ground of all existence. And you are not a body that somehow generates awareness, but rather awareness itself that has temporarily taken on physical form. This understanding changes everything, for if you are consciousness first and physical form second, then the limitations of the physical world are not your true limitations, and the possibilities available to you extend far beyond what your five senses can perceive. Every moment of your waking life, you are demonstrating this creative power of consciousness, choosing which thoughts to entertain, which beliefs to accept, which perspectives to adopt. And through these choices, you are literally creating the reality you will experience tomorrow, next week, next year. The world you see around you is not an objective reality that exists independent of your consciousness, but rather a reflection, a mirror that shows you back to yourself the contents of your own mind, the sum total of your beliefs, expectations, and dominant mental attitudes. When you truly grasp this profound truth, you realize that changing your life does not require changing the world, but rather changing your consciousness, and the world must then change to match your new inner state. When you experience those moments of profound knowing, those instances where information or understanding arrives fully formed in your awareness without any logical process of deduction, you are witnessing another sign of God's power within you. This intuitive knowing, this direct perception of truth that bypasses the rational mind entirely, comes from that deeper dimension of your being that is forever connected to infinite intelligence, to the mind of God that knows all things simultaneously and eternally. These moments of psychic connection, of knowing beyond the five senses, are not rare supernatural occurrences, but rather glimpses of your true nature, breaking through the veil of ordinary consciousness, reminding you that you are far more than a physical body moving through space and time. A mother told Dr. Joseph Murphy how she suddenly knew, without any external evidence, that her son, who was traveling thousands of miles away, needed her prayers at that exact moment, and later discovered that he had indeed been in danger at precisely that time, saved by what he described as a miraculous intervention that came just as he felt his mother's presence surrounding him with protection. This kind of knowing transcends the limitations of space and time, revealing that consciousness is not confined to the brain or bound by physical distance, but rather exists in a dimension where all minds are interconnected, where the separation we experience in physical reality dissolves into the underlying unity of all consciousness. Your intuition speaks to you constantly, offering guidance, warning, and insight, but its voice is often drowned out by the noise of rational thinking, by the chatter of worry and analysis that dominates most people's mental landscape. When you learn to quiet this surface noise, when you create moments of stillness in which you can hear the whispers of your deeper knowing, You discover a source of wisdom within you that surpasses anything you could learn from books or teachers. For this wisdom comes directly from the infinite intelligence that created you and knows the perfect path for your life. Every great decision you have ever made, every choice that led to profound positive change in your life, came not from logical analysis but from this deeper knowing, this intuitive sense that told you what was right, even when your rational mind could not explain why. The more you trust this intuitive guidance, the more strongly it speaks to you, for intuition grows stronger with use like any other faculty, developing from faint whispers into clear and unmistakable direction that illuminates your path through even the darkest circumstances. This is not about abandoning reason or logic, for they too have their proper place, but rather about recognizing that there is a higher form of intelligence within you that transcends rational thought, that can perceive solutions and possibilities that the logical mind, bound by its limited perspective and past conditioning, could never discover on its own. When you honor both your intuition and your reason, allowing each to inform the other, you become a vessel through which divine intelligence can express itself with increasing clarity and power, transforming you into a beacon of wisdom that others naturally seek out in their own times of confusion and uncertainty. The healing power that flows through your body every moment of every day stands as perhaps the most tangible evidence of divine intelligence operating within you, for your body knows how to repair itself, how to fight off invasion, how to maintain the delicate balance of countless systems all working in perfect harmony without any conscious direction from your thinking mind. When you cut your finger, you don't have to instruct your blood to clot, your cells to multiply, your skin to regenerate, for this healing happens automatically, guided by an intelligence that surpasses the understanding of the most brilliant medical minds. This same healing power, when consciously directed through prayer, meditation, or focused intention, can produce what the world calls miracles, but which are actually demonstrations of the natural law of divine power expressing itself through human consciousness. A man came to Dr. Joseph Murphy after years of chronic illness that doctors said was incurable, and through learning to speak directly to the infinite healing presence within him, affirming over and over that the same power that created his body could heal his body. Within weeks, his symptoms began to disappear, baffling his physicians who could find no medical explanation for his recovery, leading his doctor to admit that something beyond medical science had occurred. This is not an isolated case, but rather an example of a universal principle that anyone can apply. For the healing power within you responds to your conscious direction, to your faith and expectation, to the mental images you hold, and the words you speak to yourself about your body and its capabilities. Your body is not a machine that breaks down randomly and requires external fixing, but rather a living expression of consciousness, a physical manifestation of your mental and emotional states, constantly responding to and reflecting the contents of your mind. Every cell in your body is listening to your thoughts, responding to your beliefs, being shaped by your dominant mental attitudes about health, vitality, and life itself. When you hold thoughts of weakness, disease, and decline, your body responds by manifesting these expectations in physical form, not because it wants to harm you, but because it is perfectly obedient to the instructions you give it through your consciousness. When you shift to thoughts of health, strength, and vitality, when you see yourself as whole and perfect in your imagination, when you feel grateful for your body's incredible capabilities, you activate the healing power within you and set into motion forces that work to restore balance, eliminate disease, and return you to your natural state of radiant health. The medical profession focuses on treating symptoms with external interventions, and while this approach has its place and has saved countless lives, it often overlooks the primary cause of illness, which is discord in consciousness, disharmony in thought and feeling that eventually manifests as physical disease. True healing, lasting healing, permanent healing comes not merely from treating the physical symptoms, but from addressing the mental and emotional patterns that created those symptoms, from transforming consciousness at its root. And this kind of healing is available to anyone who understands and applies the principle that mind is the builder and the body is the result. Notice how certain people, places, or opportunities seem to appear in your life at exactly the right moment, as if orchestrated by an unseen hand guiding you toward your highest good, toward the fulfillment of your deepest desires and your soul's true purpose. These synchronicities, these meaningful coincidences that seem too perfect to be random, are signs that you are connected to a vast web of intelligence that responds to your thoughts, feelings, and intentions, arranging circumstances and events to support your growth and evolution. When you think of someone and they suddenly call, when you need exactly a certain amount of money and it arrives from an unexpected source, when you're struggling with a problem and the solution appears in a random conversation or a book that falls off the shelf, you are witnessing the responsive universe reflecting back to you the power of your own consciousness to influence and shape reality. A struggling artist told Dr. Joseph Murphy that the very day after he truly accepted and felt the reality of his success in his imagination, he received 3 unexpected commissions that launched his career, as if the universe had been waiting for his inner acceptance to manifest the outer opportunities. This is not coincidence, but cosmic law in action, the principle that states your outer world must eventually conform to your inner world, that the universe conspires to bring you experiences that match your dominant state of consciousness, and that when you change within, everything without must change to correspond to your new vibration. The synchronicities in your life increase in frequency and magnitude as you become more aware of them, as you begin to expect them, as you develop faith in the responsive nature of the universe. What most people dismiss as lucky coincidences are actually the normal operation of divine intelligence working through the law of attraction, bringing together people, circumstances, and opportunities in perfect timing to serve the highest good of all involved. Every person you meet, every situation you encounter, every challenge you face has been drawn into your experience by the magnetic power of your own consciousness, appearing not randomly but precisely, carrying messages, lessons, and opportunities for growth that are perfectly tailored to your current level of development and your soul's evolutionary journey. When you begin to see your life as a divinely orchestrated unfolding rather than a series of random events, when you start to trust that everything is happening for a reason and serving your highest good, even when you cannot see how, you relax into a state of flow where life becomes easier, more joyful, more miraculous. You stop trying to force outcomes through struggle and effort, and instead you align your consciousness with what you desire, maintain that alignment through faith and feeling, and then allow the infinite intelligence within you to arrange all the details, to open all the necessary doors, to bring all the right people and circumstances into your path at exactly the right time. The creative impulses that arise within you, the desires to express, to build, to bring something new into existence, these are not merely personal ambitions, but rather the creative force of the universe seeking expression through you. Every artist who has ever felt compelled to paint, every musician who has heard melodies in their mind that demanded to be played, every inventor who has seen in their imagination a device or solution that didn't yet exist, all have experienced this divine creative power pushing through them, using them as channels through which new forms can enter the world. This creative force doesn't belong exclusively to those we label as artists or geniuses, for it flows through every human being, manifesting as the desire to redecorate a room, to solve a problem at work, to raise children, to build a business, to write a letter, to cook a meal with love. When you honor these creative impulses, when you allow them to flow through you without resistance or judgment, you align yourself with the fundamental creative power of the universe, and miracles begin to unfold in your life with increasing frequency and magnitude. A housewife told Dr. Joseph Murphy that when she stopped dismissing her creative impulses as silly and began honoring them, Her simple hobby of making preserves grew into a thriving business that transformed not only her family's finances, but their entire way of life. This demonstrates the principle that when you cooperate with the creative force within you, when you give it expression rather than suppression, it multiplies and expands, bringing blessings not only to yourself, but to all those who benefit from what you create. The creative urge within you is God seeking to experience itself in new ways, to explore new possibilities, to bring forth into manifestation forms and expressions that have never existed before. You are not separate from this creative intelligence, but rather an individualized outlet through which it flows, and when you block this flow through fear, doubt, or concern about what others might think, you create internal pressure and dissatisfaction that can manifest as frustration, depression, or physical illness. The universe wants to create through you, wants to express its infinite potential through your unique perspective and talents, wants to use your hands, your voice, your mind as instruments through which new beauty, new solutions, new forms of love can enter the world. Every creative act, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, is a sacred act of cooperation with the divine, a moment where you consciously participate in the ongoing creation of reality, adding your unique contribution to the great tapestry of existence. When you create anything with love, with presence, with the intention to bring something of value into the world, you are fulfilling your highest purpose. For you were not created to be a passive consumer of life, but rather an active creator, a co-creator with God, bringing forth from the invisible realm of pure potential into the visible realm of manifest form, those things that only you, with your unique combination of experiences, perspectives, and gifts, can bring into being. Your ability to love, to feel compassion, to experience joy and peace. These emotional capacities are not merely evolutionary adaptations or chemical reactions in your brain, but rather expressions of divine qualities flowing through your human experience. When you feel your heart expand with love for another person, when tears come to your eyes at the beauty of a sunset or a piece of music, when you're moved to help a stranger in need without thought of reward, you are experiencing God's own nature expressing itself through you, for God is love, and whenever you love, you are allowing the divine to live through you. A mother who lifts a car to save her trapped child doesn't suddenly develop superhuman strength through adrenaline alone, but rather opens herself so completely to the power of love that the normal limitations of the physical body are temporarily transcended, revealing the unlimited power that lies dormant within every human being, waiting to be activated by sufficient intensity of emotion and purpose. An elderly woman told Dr. Joseph Murphy that when she replaced her daily practice of criticism with deliberate expressions of love and appreciation, not only did her chronic pain disappear, but her entire family dynamic transformed, as if love itself had become a healing force radiating from her to touch everyone in her life. This demonstrates a profound truth that love is not merely an emotion but an actual power, a transformative energy that can reshape circumstances, heal relationships, dissolve barriers, and create miracles in ways that human effort and struggle never could. When you choose love over fear, appreciation over criticism, compassion over judgment, you are wielding the most potent force in the universe, the same force that holds the stars in their courses and binds all creation together in perfect harmony. The capacity to love is evidence of your divine nature, because love is the fundamental quality of the infinite, the essential characteristic of God, and your ability to express love proves that you are made in the image and likeness of your Creator. Every act of genuine love, every moment when you transcend your ego's concerns and connect heart to heart with another being, is a moment when you are most truly yourself, most aligned with your essential nature, most fully expressing the power that created you. Love asks nothing, demands nothing, controls nothing, yet it transforms everything it touches, not through force but through its own radiant presence, dissolving darkness simply by being light, eliminating fear simply by being love. When you love unconditionally, when you extend compassion even to those who have hurt you, when you choose to see the divine spark in every person, regardless of their behavior or beliefs, you are operating from the highest dimension of your being, from that place within you that is forever one with God. This kind of love is not weakness, but the greatest strength, not naivety, but the highest wisdom, for it recognizes that beneath all the surface differences and conflicts, all beings are expressions of the one infinite life. All souls are on a journey back to remembering their divine origin, and love is the force that guides everyone home. The peace that sometimes descends upon you in moments of stillness, that deep calm that seems to come from nowhere and everywhere simultaneously. This is another sign of your divine nature, making itself known to your conscious awareness. This peace, which the scriptures describe as surpassing all understanding, doesn't depend on external circumstances being favorable, for it can arise in the midst of chaos and challenge, providing an unshakable center of calm from which you can respond rather than react to whatever life presents. When you touch this peace, even for a moment, you are touching the eternal, unchanging essence of your being, that part of you that has never been born and can never die, that exists beyond time and space in the eternal now of divine presence. A businessman facing bankruptcy told Dr. Joseph Murphy that when he finally surrendered his struggle and entered into this deep peace, accepting whatever outcome would manifest, solutions began appearing from unexpected sources, and within months his business had not only recovered, but reached new heights of success he had never imagined possible. This paradox, that surrender leads to victory and acceptance leads to transformation, reveals a profound spiritual principle that when you stop resisting what is, when you release your grip on how things must be, you open yourself to divine guidance and allow infinite intelligence to work through you in ways that your limited human perspective could never orchestrate. This inner peace is not something you create, but rather something you uncover by removing the layers of worry, fear, and mental agitation that obscure it. For peace is your natural state, the ground of your being, the still point at the center of your consciousness that remains undisturbed regardless of what storms may rage on the surface. When you practice entering into this peace regularly through meditation, prayer, or simply quiet contemplation, you strengthen your connection to it, making it more accessible even in the midst of challenging circumstances, until eventually you can maintain an inner sanctuary of calm that nothing external can penetrate or disturb. The world seeks peace through controlling external circumstances, through accumulating enough wealth, security, and comfort to feel safe, but this approach never succeeds because external circumstances are constantly changing, and what seems secure today may crumble tomorrow. True peace, lasting peace, unshakable peace comes only from recognizing your identity with the eternal, from knowing that your essential being is rooted not in the changing world of form, but in the unchanging realm of spirit. When you know yourself as consciousness itself, rather than as the temporary forms that consciousness takes, when you identify with the eternal observer, rather than with the passing parade of thoughts, emotions, and experiences, you discover a peace that nothing in this world can give you, and nothing in this world can take away, for it is the very nature of what you are beneath all appearances. Watch how your presence alone can change the atmosphere of a room, how your state of consciousness can influence the mood and behavior of those around you without you saying a word or taking any physical action. This invisible influence that you exert on your environment is another sign of the divine power within you, for you are constantly radiating energy that affects everything and everyone in your field of influence. When you enter a space filled with tension while maintaining your own inner peace, notice how the tension begins to dissipate, how people begin to relax and open up, how solutions to problems suddenly become apparent. This is not coincidence, but rather the natural effect of higher consciousness upon lower vibrations, the same principle by which light dispels darkness simply by being itself. A teacher told Dr. Joseph Murphy how she transformed her chaotic classroom simply by changing her own inner state before entering each day, maintaining thoughts of order and harmony, and within weeks, the same students who had been unruly became cooperative and eager to learn, though she had changed nothing in her external approach. This demonstrates that your primary influence on the world comes not from what you do or say, but from what you are, from the quality of consciousness you embody, from the vibration you emanate simply by existing in a particular state of awareness. You are like a tuning fork that causes other tuning forks around you to vibrate in resonance with your frequency, and when you consciously raise your vibration to match higher states of peace, love, joy, and faith, you naturally lift everyone in your environment toward those same states. This invisible influence operates according to the principle that consciousness is contagious, that mental and emotional states transfer from person to person through subtle energetic channels that science is only beginning to understand, but which mystics and spiritual teachers have always known about. You have experienced this countless times when you entered a room where people were laughing and found yourself beginning to smile, or when you encountered someone who was anxious and felt your own anxiety rising, or when you spent time with someone who radiated peace and found yourself becoming calm. These are not merely psychological effects, but actual energetic transmissions, consciousness communicating with consciousness, spirit touching spirit beneath the level of words and physical interaction. When you understand this principle, you realize that your greatest contribution to the world may not be through your actions or achievements, but simply through maintaining the highest state of consciousness you can access, through being a living demonstration of peace, love, faith, and joy that radiates outward to touch everyone you encounter. You become like a lamp that dispels darkness, not by fighting against it or pushing it away, but simply by shining, allowing your light to illuminate the space around you, making it easier for others to find their own light within themselves. This is the true meaning of being the change you wish to see in the world, not through effort and struggle to fix external problems, but through embodying the consciousness that naturally dissolves those problems by its very presence. The dreams and visions that come to you in sleep or in moments of deep meditation often carry messages and insights from dimensions of consciousness that transcend your ordinary waking awareness, providing guidance, warning, or inspiration that can profoundly impact your life when properly understood and acted upon. Throughout history, every great discovery, every profound innovation, every spiritual revelation has come through someone who was receptive to these communications from the deeper dimensions of mind, someone who understood that human consciousness is not confined to the brain, but extends into realms of infinite possibility and knowledge. When you dream of a solution to a problem that has been troubling you, when you see in meditation a symbol or scene that later proves significant, when you receive in that twilight state between waking and sleeping an idea that transforms your life, you are experiencing the natural communication that exists between your individual consciousness and the universal mind of which you are an individualized expression. A scientist told Dr. Joseph Murphy that the breakthrough formula that earned him international recognition came to him complete and perfect in a dream, after months of fruitless conscious effort, proving that the infinite intelligence within knows the answer to every question and the solution to every problem. This is not an isolated incident, but rather an example of how the deeper mind works, accessing information and insights that lie beyond the reach of the conscious intellect, drawing from the infinite storehouse of wisdom that exists in the universal consciousness to which every individual mind is connected. Your dreams are not random, meaningless images, but rather symbolic communications from your own deeper wisdom, presenting truths about your life, warnings about potential dangers, solutions to current challenges, and visions of future possibilities in the language of symbols that bypasses the rational mind's tendency to reject or dismiss what it cannot logically explain. The key to benefiting from this inner guidance is learning to remember, interpret, and act upon the messages you receive, treating your dreams and intuitive visions as valuable communications from the wisest counselor you could ever consult, your own higher self. When you begin keeping a dream journal, recording your dreams immediately upon waking before they fade from memory, you send a message to your subconscious mind that you value these communications, and it responds by making them clearer, more frequent, and more easily remembered. When you take time to contemplate the symbols and themes that appear in your dreams, asking what they might be telling you about your life, your choices, your path forward, you open a dialogue with the deeper dimensions of your being that can transform your entire experience of life. This communication between the conscious and subconscious levels of your mind, between your individual awareness and the universal intelligence that encompasses all minds, is available to everyone, not just to special gifted individuals, for it is a natural function of consciousness itself. The only thing that prevents most people from benefiting from this inner guidance is their dismissal of it as meaningless, their belief that dreams are just random neural firings without significance, their unwillingness to take the time to listen to the still small voice within that speaks not in the language of logic, but in the language of symbols, feelings, and knowing that transcends rational understanding. Your capacity to forgive, to release resentment and choose love even when you have been wronged, demonstrates a power within you that transcends the normal human ego's desire for revenge or justice, revealing your ability to operate from a higher dimension of being, where love is recognized as the only true power. When you forgive someone who has hurt you, you're not merely performing a psychological exercise in letting go, you're actually wielding one of the most powerful forces in the universe. The force that can dissolve karma, heal relationships across time and space, and free both you and the other person from the chains of negative energy that bind you together in patterns of pain. This power to forgive, to choose love over fear, peace over conflict, understanding over judgment, is the same power that Jesus demonstrated when he said from the cross, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." And it resides within you just as fully as it resided within him, waiting only for you to choose to express it. A woman told Dr. Joseph Murphy that when she finally forgave her ex-husband who had betrayed her, not only did her chronic depression lift, but he unexpectedly contacted her to make amends and repay money he owed, as if her forgiveness had freed both of them from an invisible prison. This demonstrates that forgiveness is not just good for your emotional well-being, but actually changes the energy field that connects you to others, dissolving the negative bonds that keep you locked in cycles of pain and opening the way for healing, resolution, and positive transformation. When you hold resentment, anger, or bitterness towards someone, you are not punishing them, but rather poisoning yourself, carrying toxic energy in your consciousness that affects every area of your life, blocking the flow of divine power through you and preventing you from experiencing the joy, peace, and abundance that are your natural birthright. Forgiveness does not mean condoning harmful behavior, pretending that wrong actions were acceptable, or allowing yourself to be mistreated without boundaries. True forgiveness means releasing the emotional charge, the energetic attachment, the mental obsession with the person or situation that hurt you. Choosing to see the situation from a higher perspective, where you recognize that everyone is doing the best they can with their current level of consciousness, and that hurt people, passing on the pain they themselves have received. When you forgive, you break this cycle, refusing to pass on the pain, choosing instead to transform it through the power of love and understanding. The ability to forgive reveals your divine nature, because it shows you can transcend the ego's programming, override the primitive instinct for revenge, and access a higher wisdom that knows holding on to resentment hurts you far more than the person you resent. Every time you choose forgiveness over bitterness, understanding over judgment, compassion over condemnation, you are exercising your power as a spiritual being, demonstrating your mastery over the lower emotions that keep most people trapped in endless cycles of suffering. This power to forgive is perhaps the clearest sign that you are made in the image of God, for only a being with divine potential could override such strong natural impulses and choose love when everything in the situation seems to call for anger, hatred, or revenge. The fact that you can change your mind, that you can choose a new thought, adopt a new belief, shift your perspective from negative to positive, from fear to faith, from lack to abundance. This mental flexibility is itself a divine gift that sets you apart from every other form of life on this planet and marks you as a co-creator with the infinite. Your thoughts are not merely electrical impulses in your brain, but rather creative forces that shape the quantum field of infinite possibility into the specific forms and experiences that constitute your reality. And every time you consciously choose a thought that aligns with what you want to create, rather than what you fear might happen, you are exercising your divine power to create worlds. A man who had lived in poverty all his life told Dr. Joseph Murphy how he discovered this power when he began to discipline his mind to think thoughts of abundance rather than lack, to see wealth rather than poverty, to feel grateful rather than resentful. And within 1 year, his entire financial situation had transformed through a series of opportunities and synchronicities that seemed miraculous, but were actually the natural result of his changed consciousness. This power to choose your thoughts, to direct your attention, to select which beliefs you will accept and which you will reject, is the foundation of all spiritual practice and the key to transforming your life from within. Most people live as prisoners of their conditioned thought patterns, automatically thinking the same thoughts day after day, reacting to circumstances with habitual mental and emotional responses, never realizing that they have the power to step back from these automatic patterns and consciously choose different thoughts, different responses, different ways of interpreting their experiences. When you discover this power within yourself, when you realize that you are not your thoughts but rather the thinker of your thoughts, the consciousness that observes and chooses which thoughts to entertain and which to dismiss, you discover the master key to freedom, happiness, and creative power. Your mind is like a garden, and you are the gardener who decides which seeds to plant, which plants to water and nurture, and which weeds to pull out before they take over the entire space. Every thought is a seed that contains within it the potential to grow into corresponding experiences and circumstances in your life. And when you plant thoughts of health, prosperity, love, and success, you will inevitably harvest experiences that match those seeds. When you allow thoughts of fear, lack, resentment, and limitation to take root and grow unchecked in the garden of your mind, you will harvest experiences of struggle, scarcity, and suffering, not because the universe is punishing you, but because you are reaping what you have sown in consciousness. The moment you truly grasp that you have this power of choice, that you can, at any moment, choose a different thought, regardless of what circumstances may appear in your external world, you have discovered the secret that every spiritual master has taught throughout history. Freedom is not found in changing external circumstances, but in changing your relationship to those circumstances through the thoughts you choose to think, the meanings you choose to assign, and the mental attitude you choose to maintain regardless of what appears before your eyes. Notice how often you know things are going to happen before they do, how you can sense the phone is about to ring before it does, how you think of someone and then encounter them, how you feel that something significant is about to occur and then it does. For these precognitive experiences are showing you that your consciousness exists outside the normal flow of linear time. This ability to perceive beyond the present moment, to sense the future forming itself in the invisible realm, before it manifests in physical reality, is another sign of your divine nature. For God exists in the eternal now, where past, present, and future are simultaneously present, and you, as an expression of God, have access to this same eternal perspective when you quiet your mind and open your spiritual perception. A stockbroker told Dr. Joseph Murphy that after developing trust in these intuitive flashes, he built a fortune by acting on hunches that defied market logic, but proved accurate time after time, as if he was reading a script that had already been written in the invisible realm. These glimpses beyond the veil of time reveal that the sequential, linear experience of past, present, and future is a feature of physical consciousness, a necessary framework for operating in a three-dimensional world, but not the ultimate reality of consciousness itself. Your deeper awareness exists in a dimension where time as you understand it does not exist, where all moments are eternally present, where the beginning and end of all things exist simultaneously in the eternal now. When you access this deeper dimension through intuition, meditation, or those spontaneous moments when the veil between worlds grows thin, you can perceive information about events that have not yet occurred in linear time, but which already exist as possibilities, probabilities, or certainties in the timeless realm of consciousness. This is why prayer and visualization work, why holding a mental image of what you desire and feeling it as already accomplished can cause it to manifest in your future experience, because in the realm of consciousness where all power resides, there is no separation between present and future, between desire and fulfillment, between imagination and reality. When you imagine your desire fulfilled with sufficient feeling and faith, you are not creating a fantasy but rather tuning into a future that already exists in potential, collapsing the wave of possibility into the particle of experience, drawing that future into your present timeline through the magnetic power of consciousness, focused with emotion and expectation. Your precognitive experiences, your accurate hunches and premonitions, are evidence that you are not trapped in the present moment but rather exist simultaneously in all moments, that your consciousness is vast enough to encompass past, present, and future, and that the limitations of linear time are illusions of physical perception rather than absolute boundaries of your awareness. The more you trust and develop this capacity to perceive beyond the present moment, the more you align with your true nature as an eternal being, having a temporary experience in time rather than a time-bound being, occasionally glimpsing eternity. Your ability to transmute negative experiences into wisdom, to transform pain into compassion, to convert challenges into strength, reveals an alchemical power within you that can take any raw material of experience and refine it into spiritual gold. This is not merely a psychological coping mechanism, but rather a divine capability to extract meaning and growth from every experience, to find the blessing hidden in every curse, to discover the opportunity concealed within every problem. When you look back at the most difficult experiences of your life and recognize how they shaped you into who you are today, how they developed qualities and capabilities within you that could not have emerged any other way, you are seeing the evidence of this transmutative power that ensures nothing in your life is ever wasted, nothing is ever meaningless, everything serves the evolution of your soul. A man who lost everything in a business failure told Dr. Joseph Murphy how that devastating experience became the foundation of his later success, teaching him humility, compassion, and wisdom that no amount of easy success could have provided, transforming him from a ruthless businessman into a beloved leader who built his new empire on service rather than exploitation. This story illustrates how the divine intelligence within you can take what appears to be your greatest disaster and transform it into your greatest blessing, not by changing what happened, but by changing what it means, by extracting from the experience the lessons, insights, and qualities of character that serve your highest evolution. This alchemical power operates through your ability to choose the meaning you assign to your experiences, to interpret events through the lens of growth and opportunity rather than through the lens of victimhood and tragedy. Two people can go through identical experiences and emerge completely different, one broken and bitter, the other stronger and wiser. And the difference lies not in what happened to them, but in how they chose to process and interpret what happened. In their ability to ask empowering questions like, "What can I learn from this?" and "How can I use this experience to become stronger and more compassionate?" rather than disempowering questions like, "Why did this happen to me? And who can I blame for my suffering?" The ancient alchemists sought to transform lead into gold through chemical processes, but the true alchemy they pointed toward was always the transformation of consciousness, the ability to take the base metal of difficult experiences and transmute them through the power of understanding, acceptance, and spiritual insight into the gold of wisdom, compassion, and inner strength. You possess this power within you right now, the power to take whatever life has given you, no matter how difficult or painful, and transform it into something that serves your growth, that deepens your understanding, that increases your capacity to love and serve others who face similar challenges. This is perhaps the most practical demonstration of divine power available to you, for it means that nothing can truly harm you, nothing can ultimately defeat you, because you have within you the power to transform every experience into food for your soul's evolution. The life force that animates your body, that keeps your heart beating and your lungs breathing even while you sleep, that maintains the incredibly complex operations of your physical form without any conscious effort on your part. This is the same power that moves the planets in their orbits and causes the seeds to grow into mighty trees. You are not separate from this power, but rather a unique expression of it, a point of consciousness through which the infinite experiences itself in finite form, through which God experiences what it's like to be you, with your unique perspective, your individual challenges, your personal desires and dreams. This is why your desires, when they come from the depth of your being rather than from the surface level of ego, are actually divine desires, seeking expression through you, and why following your true passion and purpose always leads to the greatest good, not only for yourself, but for all those whose lives you touch. A woman told Dr. Joseph Murphy that when she finally stopped trying to fulfill others' expectations and followed her deep inner calling to teach, doors opened that had seemed permanently closed, and she found herself living a life of meaning and joy she had never thought possible. This demonstrates that when you align with the life force within you, when you cooperate with its natural flow rather than resisting it with fear-based decisions and limiting beliefs, life becomes effortless, opportunities appear synchronistically, and you find yourself being carried forward by a current of divine support that brings you to exactly where you need to be. The struggles and difficulties most people experience in life come not from the absence of divine power, but from resistance to it, from trying to force life to conform to ego's limited plans rather than surrendering to the infinite wisdom that knows the perfect path for your unfolding. This life force is not an impersonal energy, but rather intelligent, purposeful, and responsive to your consciousness. It flows through you constantly, but its expression can be either restricted or amplified by your beliefs, thoughts, and emotional states. When you live in fear, doubt, and negativity, you constrict the flow of life force through your being, creating blockages that manifest as physical illness, emotional distress, and external circumstances of limitation and lack. When you live in faith, love, and positive expectancy, you open the channels wide and allow life force to flow through you abundantly, expressing as radiant health, emotional well-being, and circumstances of prosperity and fulfillment. The ancient teachings speak of this life force under many names: Qi in Chinese philosophy, prana in Hindu tradition, pneuma in Greek thought, the breath of life in biblical texts. But all point to the same reality that you are animated by a power that transcends your physical form, that existed before your body was formed and will continue after your body returns to dust. You are not your body, but rather the eternal consciousness that temporarily inhabits this physical form, the deathless awareness that uses the body as a vehicle for experiencing physical reality, but which in its essential nature is spirit, unlimited and eternal, one with the infinite power that creates and sustains all worlds. When sudden bursts of courage arise within you, enabling you to do things you never thought possible, to speak truths you were afraid to voice, to take actions that your logical mind insisted were too risky, you are experiencing the divine power overriding the limitations of your conditioned personality and revealing your true nature as an unlimited being. This courage is not something you have to develop or earn, but rather something that emerges naturally when you align with your divine nature. When you remember who and what you really are beyond all the stories of limitation and fear that the world has taught you to believe. Every hero who has ever lived, everyone who has changed the world by standing up for what they knew was right despite the consequences, has drawn upon this same infinite source of courage that resides within you, waiting for the moment when you choose love over fear strongly enough to activate its power. A timid man told Dr. Joseph Murphy how in a moment of crisis, when a child was in danger, he found himself performing acts of bravery that his ordinary personality could never have imagined, and that experience showed him the fearless divine nature that had always existed within him, waiting to be recognized and expressed. This story reveals that courage is not the absence of fear, but rather the presence of something greater than fear, a connection to the divine power within you that transcends all limitation and makes the impossible possible when the situation demands it. The courage you seek is not something you must manufacture through willpower or positive thinking, but rather something you uncover by removing the layers of conditioning that hide your true, fearless nature. Your true self, your divine essence, knows no fear because it knows its own immortality, its eternal nature, its fundamental invulnerability. Fear exists only in the personality, in the ego that identifies with the body and believes that death is the end, that loss is possible, that you can be diminished or destroyed by external circumstances. When you shift your identity from the temporary personality to the eternal spirit, when you remember that you are not the wave but the ocean, not the form but the consciousness that animates all forms, fear loses its power over you because you recognize that nothing can truly threaten what you essentially are. The courage to be yourself, to express your truth, to follow your passion despite others' opinions or society's expectations. This courage comes from the same divine source as the physical courage to face danger or overcome obstacles. Both require you to trust in something greater than your limited human self, to have faith that you are supported by infinite intelligence, to know that you are guided by divine wisdom toward your highest good. When you live from this place of trust and faith, courage becomes your natural state, not because circumstances are always favorable, but because you know that regardless of what happens externally, your essential being remains untouched, and that every experience serves your ultimate growth and evolution toward the full realization of your divine potential. The joy that sometimes bubbles up within you for no apparent reason, that effervescent happiness that seems to come from the very center of your being and has nothing to do with external circumstances, this is your divine nature celebrating its own existence, recognizing itself as pure being, pure consciousness, pure bliss. This causeless joy is actually your natural state, the state you existed in before the world taught you that happiness must be earned, that joy must be justified, that you need reasons to feel good. Children express this natural joy freely until they're taught to suppress it, but it never actually goes away. It simply becomes covered over by layers of conditioning, waiting beneath the surface for those moments when you let your guard down enough for it to burst through. A depressed woman told Dr. Joseph Murphy that when she began each day with deliberate expressions of gratitude and joy, regardless of her circumstances, Not only did her depression lift, but circumstances began to reshape themselves to match her new joyful state, as if the universe was responding to her changed vibration with matching experiences. This demonstrates that joy is not a response to favorable circumstances, but rather a creative force that attracts and creates favorable circumstances, a vibrational frequency that aligns you with the flow of divine abundance and opens channels through which blessings can pour into your life. When you choose joy regardless of what is happening around you, when you deliberately cultivate feelings of happiness and appreciation, even when circumstances seem to warrant sadness or complaint, you are not being foolish or unrealistic, but rather exercising your divine power to create your reality from the inside out. The joy within you is not dependent on anything external, because it is the joy of existence itself, the delight of consciousness in its own being, the happiness that comes from simply being alive and aware. This is the joy that mystics speak of when they describe the bliss of union with the divine, the ecstasy that arises when you recognize your true nature as consciousness itself, rather than identifying with the limited personality and its endless demands and disappointments. Every moment of causeless joy you experience is a glimpse into your true nature, a reminder that happiness is not something you achieve through external accomplishment, but something you uncover by removing the mental and emotional blockages that obscure your natural state of blissful awareness. When you make the cultivation of joy a spiritual practice, when you deliberately choose thoughts and activities that generate feelings of happiness, gratitude, and appreciation, you align yourself with the highest vibrations of consciousness and open yourself to receive the infinite blessings that the universe is always seeking to bestow upon you. Joy is not frivolous or superficial, but rather one of the most powerful spiritual practices available to you. For when you are joyful, you are in harmony with your divine source. You are allowing life force to flow through you unobstructed. You are becoming a channel through which God's own happiness expresses itself in human form, blessing not only yourself, but everyone whose life you touch with the contagious energy of your joy. Your capacity to envision a different future, to imagine yourself living a different life, to hold in your mind's eye a reality that has never existed before. This imaginative power is the same force that God used to imagine the universe into existence, and you inherited this creative imagination as your birthright. Every single thing that exists in the human world, every building, every piece of art, every technology, every social structure, first existed in someone's imagination before it became physical reality, proving that imagination is not fantasy but rather the workshop where all creation begins. When you use your imagination consciously and deliberately, when you regularly envision the life you want to live with feeling and faith, you set into motion invisible forces that begin to rearrange circumstances and synchronicities to match your inner vision. Not through magic, but through the natural law that the outer world must eventually conform to consistently held inner states of consciousness. An architect told Dr. Joseph Murphy that he first built every building in his imagination down to the smallest detail, and the physical construction was merely the shadow cast by his mental creation, never deviating from what he had first seen in the invisible realm of mind. This principle applies not only to buildings and physical objects, but to every aspect of your life, for your current circumstances are nothing more than the physical manifestation of what you have been consistently imagining, whether consciously or unconsciously. Most people use their imagination against themselves, constantly picturing worst-case scenarios, rehearsing failures and disappointments, visualizing all the things that could go wrong, and then they wonder why their lives are filled with struggle and limitation. When you redirect this same imaginative power toward creating mental images of success, health, abundance, and happiness, holding these images with the same intensity of feeling that you once gave to your fears and worries, you discover the master key to transforming your entire life experience. The imagination is not bound by past experience, current circumstances, or the opinions of others about what is possible for you. In your imagination, you can be anyone, do anything, have anything, for imagination operates in the realm of pure possibility, where all limitations dissolve and all things become accessible to consciousness. This is why spending time in constructive imagination, building detailed mental images of the life you desire to live, feeling the emotions you would feel if those desires were already fulfilled, is not idle daydreaming, but rather the most practical and powerful action you can take to create lasting change in your outer circumstances. The divine intelligence within you cannot tell the difference between a real experience and one vividly imagined with feeling, which is why your body responds to mental images with physical sensations, why your emotions react to imagined scenarios as if they were actually happening, why your subconscious mind accepts as true whatever you consistently impress upon it through repeated visualization. This gives you incredible power, for it means you can begin living in the feeling of your wish fulfilled right now, before any external evidence appears. And by living in that feeling consistently through your imagination, you compel the outer world to reorganize itself to match your inner state. The magnetic power within you that draws certain people and opportunities into your life while repelling others operates according to the law of resonance, which states that you attract what you are, not what you want. And this power of attraction is constantly at work, whether you're conscious of it or not. When you change your inner state, when you shift your vibration through changes in thought and feeling, you immediately begin to attract different experiences, different people, different opportunities that match your new frequency. As surely as changing the station on a radio brings in different programs, for the entire universe is energy vibrating at different frequencies, and you are both a receiver and transmitter in this cosmic symphony. Every person in your life, every situation you encounter, every opportunity or obstacle that appears before you has been magnetized into your experience by the particular frequency at which your consciousness is vibrating, drawn by the law of attraction that responds not to your words or wishes, but to your actual state of being, to the sum total of your beliefs, expectations, and dominant emotional patterns. A woman told Dr. Joseph Murphy that when she stopped feeling desperate about finding a romantic partner and instead cultivated feelings of love, wholeness, and self-sufficiency within herself, she suddenly began attracting potential partners of a quality she had never encountered before, as if her changed inner state had tuned her into a completely different frequency where higher quality relationships existed. This demonstrates the principle that you cannot attract from a frequency of lack what only exists at a frequency of abundance, that you cannot draw to yourself from a state of fear what can only be accessed from a state of love, that your inner world must first match what you desire before your outer world can deliver it to you. The magnetic power within you operates automatically and continuously, attracting experiences that match your vibration, whether you are aware of this process or not, which is why becoming conscious of your habitual thoughts and feelings is so crucial to taking control of your life. Most people wonder why they keep attracting the same problems, the same types of difficult people, the same frustrating situations over and over, never realizing that they are the common denominator, that they are broadcasting a signal through their consciousness that attracts these repetitive experiences. When you change the signal, when you consciously shift to a higher frequency by choosing different thoughts and cultivating different emotional states, the repetitive patterns dissolve and new possibilities begin to appear that were invisible to you at your previous frequency. This law of magnetic attraction explains why gratitude is such a powerful practice, for when you focus on what you appreciate in your current life, you vibrate at a frequency of abundance and receiving, which attracts more to be grateful for. It explains why worry is so destructive, for when you focus on what you fear might happen, you vibrate at the frequency of that feared outcome and begin to attract the very experiences you hope to avoid. Understanding this principle gives you tremendous power, for it means you can deliberately choose to vibrate at the frequency of what you desire by thinking thoughts and feeling emotions that match that desire. And by maintaining this vibration consistently, you make yourself a magnet for the corresponding experiences, drawing them to you through the invisible but utterly reliable law of resonance that governs all of manifestation. The signs of God's power within you have been present all along, manifesting in countless ways throughout your life, waiting for you to recognize them, acknowledge them, and consciously cooperate with them to create a life that reflects your divine nature, rather than the limitations that the world has tried to impose upon you. Every breath you take, every thought you think, every feeling you experience, every moment of intuition, healing, synchronicity, creativity, love, peace, courage, and joy is evidence of this power flowing through you, proving beyond any doubt that you are not a powerless victim of circumstances, but rather a divine being of infinite potential, temporarily focused in physical form. The question has never been whether you possess this power, for that is an undeniable fact of your existence, but rather whether you will claim it, use it consciously, and allow it to express itself fully through your life. When you begin to see these signs everywhere, when you start to recognize the divine power operating in even the smallest details of your daily experience, your entire relationship with life transforms from one of struggle against external forces to one of cooperation with the infinite intelligence that seeks to express itself through you. You stop being a beggar asking the universe for scraps and become instead a conscious co-creator who understands that the power to shape your life resides within your own consciousness, that you have been given dominion over your experience through the thoughts you choose, the beliefs you accept, and the feelings you cultivate. This recognition is not arrogance, but rather the simple acknowledgement of truth, the humble acceptance of your divine inheritance, the claiming of your birthright as a child of the infinite, made in the image and likeness of creative power itself. Dr. Joseph Murphy taught thousands of people to recognize and use this power within them, and every testimony, every healing, every transformation, every miraculous manifestation proved the same eternal principle, that God's power is not distant or separate but present within your own consciousness, available to you at every moment, waiting only for your recognition and acceptance. The power that created the universe beats your heart, breathes your breath, thinks your thoughts, and dreams your dreams. And when you align your conscious mind with this infinite power within you, when you stop resisting it through doubt, fear, and limiting beliefs, and instead cooperate with it through faith, love, and positive expectation, you discover that the life you've always dreamed of is not something you must struggle to achieve, but rather something that unfolds naturally as you allow the divine power within you to express itself without obstruction. The invitation stands before you now. Will you continue to live as if you are powerless, at the mercy of external circumstances, a victim of fate and chance? Or will you recognize the signs that have been there all along, claim the divine power that is your birthright, and begin to live as the unlimited being you truly are? The choice is yours, and the power to choose is itself the greatest sign of all that God's infinite creative power already resides within you, waiting for this very moment when you finally say yes to your own divine nature and step into the fullness of what you were always meant to be.